Come on. Come on.
Yes, YouTube, welcome back to another video. So in this one, we are going to be going through exactly how to set up your food if you want to diet down to get lean. So the first thing we need, right, is to set the calories. Now, we want to set calories as high as possible. The reason being is when we bring those calories down, we will need to keep on pushing that and pushing that and pushing that. We have our BMR, we have our basal metabolic rate. The lower we keep that food, that will be our set point. We have to push below that. So if we start our food ridiculously low, we're gonna have to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and then we can literally get to the point where we can't make any more changes and we've not got all that fat loss done. Starting that as high as we can is the number one thing. So getting that data first is the most important thing. If you've no idea where food is at now, log what you are currently eating, see where that's at, and we can then start that little bit lower. Preferably, we have just been doing a gaining phase, we know where food is at, and then we can pull down from there. That's ideally where we want to be if we are actually dieting down to not just get rid of a bit of body fat, but get lean. So we want to eat as much as we can while seeing that body fat come down within that first week, right? So we don't want to pull off loads. If we've just been eating 3,500 calories, we don't need to pull food down to 2,000 calories, right? Because again, then we'd run out of room. Essentially, you don't need to be eating 2,000 calories to start. Nobody wants to be doing that, do they? So we will start with as much food as we possibly can. If we've been eating 4,000 calories, we might be able to start on 3,200 calories, 3,300 calories, around that. If we've been eating 3,000 calories, we might need to start on 2,400. So we're starting that food as high as possible. Within that, what we are looking at then is our macronutrients, right? So with protein, that's the base. We want to be at least a gram per pound of body weight, right? Now, if we are massively overweight, we're not gonna be a gram per pound of body weight. We need to take that into consideration, but for most, a gram per pound around that mark is going to be more than enough. If we overdo that massively, we essentially don't need that. It can cause some digestive problems. It's just not needed. So in order to hold onto that muscle tissue as we pull down, we need to keep that protein in that spot. So we are not going to get rid of calories from protein, right? We're going to keep that there. So if we're 180 pounds and we start at 190 protein, let's say a little bit over that, that wants to stay there. We don't want to be pulling down from that. To keep that protein there, that is what is going to hold on to that muscle tissue. So it's very, very important that we keep that protein. Do not be pulling calories from your protein there. And again, don't have it stupidly high because, like we're going to go through in a minute, we want that to be carbohydrates essentially, even in our fat loss phase there. So in terms of not losing muscle, keep that protein where you started or as close as possible. So then with fats, now this for me will depend on just what we've just been eating, right? Ideally, I don't want to pull anybody below that 30 gram mark, let's say. So that's obviously, we're never going to start fats in a diet phase lower than that. We need fats from a hormonal standpoint. We can also utilize it within meals to affect the release of those carbohydrates, energy levels if we're crashing, those types of things. We can play around with where we're spreading fats then throughout the day. And with protein as well, spreading that out, if we have all of that protein in one go, again, we might find just digesting that is a little bit brutal. I would much rather spread that out from a protein synthesis standpoint and from that digestion standpoint as well. So depending where food's been, typically we're gonna be within that 30 to 60 gram mark, somewhere within that range, depending on where food's just been and how heavy we are. So if you pull fats into the floor, hormonally, we're gonna struggle with that. Just how we function, we need those fats there. They are very, very important. We can also massively affect, like I said there, carbohydrates. So when we have a meal that's higher in carbohydrates, if we have fats with that, the release of that will slow. That will slow that down. If we have zero fats, it's going to be very fast absorbing for us. So that's something that we can use at times when we need it. Again, that's why I'd like to spread that across the day if we can. We don't want all our fats in one go. So spreading that through the day as much as we can. So that's protein, a gram per pound of body weight. With those fats, typically for a start point, we're looking anywhere within let's say that 40 to 60, 65, 70 if we were on a lot of food, grams of fat. Now the reason we're keeping that there, and we don't necessarily need any higher, carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are your best friend. Yes, you are trying to drop body fat. The reason that carbs have a negative stigma in like mainstream fitness world, right? Yes, we hold on some water from carbohydrates. Yes, technically you would be heavier from eating carbohydrates. However, that is quite literally just water, right? We're not cutting weight for a fight. We are trying to drop body fat, and we're trying to hold on to as much muscle tissue as we possibly can. Those carbohydrates are our main energy source. So for whatever calories we've got there, we've got our protein, we've got our fats, we fill the rest of that with carbohydrates, and we keep that as high as we possibly can. This is then the main thing that we need to pull down over time. So say if I have a client and we move that down 25 grams of carbs, 100 calories, 50 grams of carbs, 200 calories, that is what we're gonna be going with there. So typically we'll pull that from fats and from carbohydrates as we bring that food down, keep protein in a good spot. So say you might start on 400 grams of carbs, we might finish on 200 grams of carbs. And that's where we want to bring that down over time. The main thing then, what we are looking at is keeping those carbohydrates around your training window. Carbohydrates converted into glycogen, that is what we are using to train. So if you feel super flat, super weak, and you're not having your carbs around your training, you have to get that in and keep it there for as long as you possibly can. We're going to have energy coming in, and then we're able to replenish those glycogen stores post, so then we're still feeling as good as we possibly can do, and we can recover as well as possible. So that is why those carbohydrates are ridiculously important. That is how we're typically looking at that macronutrient setup and those calories there. As high as possible to start, mainly pulling from those carbohydrates. Now, we want to keep this as clean as possible. Number one, nobody wants bad digestion. The more sweeteners we have in there, the more processed foods we have in there, digestion is going to be more likely to be off. The more sugar we do throw in there, the more sugar we're going to be craving. It's going to make things more difficult. All around how we feel, we're going to be feeling a lot better if the majority of that is good, clean foods. So when we're looking at micronutrients as well, from a health standpoint, that's when, of course, we've got our carbs, protein, and our fats. We need to keep our eye on fiber. We need to keep our eye on trying to get some veg into there, trying to get some fruit into there, making sure that from a micronutrient standpoint, we do have some value to keep nice and healthy. And when we're healthy, our body is going to perform better, everything is going to be working better. In turn, we can look better from that. So from there, set out those meals. Say we've got 4 meals, or 5 meals, or 3 meals. We want to set those meals up, like we said with carbohydrates, around your training. That's going to be the number one thing. What I would do is I would keep at least 3 of those the same. I would try to keep that to pre and post if we can. We've got another meal there, nice and simple. So from those 3 meals, if we can have a good base macronutrient wise then maybe have a bit of flexibility. This is a really nice tactic that we like to use with clients. 3 that we just keep the same, so you don't have to think. We might have 1 meal where we might switch around from potato to rice to pasta to wraps, whatever it is, with our chicken, with our beef mince. For me, that's going to be that last meal where I might just change that carbohydrate source around. That gives you a nice bit of variety within that. And it also means you've got that kind of meal plan approach with the structure, but the if it fits your macros approach with just 1 meal, that's nice and easy to manage. And then if you want to keep that same, you can, depending on how busy you are that day. Also gives us the opportunity to, say if we are going out, we are grabbing a Nando's, which is a little bit more, we are going out for a meal, whatever it is, and we need to do that. We can pull from those first 3 meals and we can save a bigger gap for me, what's that last meal, and that's what I try and keep there. So you've got that room around socials to play with. So you can pull from those 3 and save that for that last one. So let's give 3 examples. If we're training fasted, meal 1 might be super small. We might go with just a banana. We might go with some bagels and jam. That's where we try and keep fats down because we want fast acting, straight into the system carbohydrates. We might go with 2 crumpets and jam. Something along those lines, a squares bar. So that's going to be our pre. If we're training in the morning fasted, hydrate, pre, post-workout, again, we might go for some carbs. We might have a rice meal, we might have a sourdough meal, we might have a cereal meal. So meal 1, pre, meal 2, post. We then have a meal 3 where, again, we might use rice, we might use wraps, we might have something there just nice and simple with a protein source, which then leads us on to that last meal, which if we can stick with a carb source, a protein source, whatever fats we need, keep that relatively clean, have a bit of variety, we're flying. Say we're training morning, midday. Meal one may be pre, it may be a bigger meal, or we might have a smaller meal one again, a bigger pre, and then post there. So again, 1, 2, and 3 set nice and solid, and then we're good to go. And we try and keep that pre-workout the same so we know how we feel off that, and we can monitor our performance and make changes to that if we need to. More carbs, even less carbs, etc. if we're having this big crash. And then say if we're training in the evening, meal one, we might have eggs, sourdough, for example, what I have. We might have a meal we take to work, we might put some chicken with our wraps, with our rice. Say we have some dark chocolate, we need those fats there. So then we'll have our pre-workout. Let's say you have a 9 to 5 there. You might have something super quick. We might take some cereal with us, with some whey, and have that as pre-workout. And then we've got that bigger meal then for post-workout, which we just make sure we've got a good amount of carbs in. So whether it's fasted, midday, later on, we've got the structure there. We're trying to keep that pre-workout the same so we can organize that the same with our post. So make sure you take care of your training window. Now the next thing, of course, people struggle to stick with their diet. The fridge comes calling. This was my biggest problem when I was out of shape, and it's turning that food brain off. Snacks, for me, cause more harm than good in a fat loss phase. When was the last time you had a snack, a little something, and you thought, do you know what, yeah, I'm full? Probably never, right? So what we like to do with a lot of our guys, set them meals up, because then you can turn your food brain off. If you just think, ooh, can I fit this biscuit in? Can I fit this in? Can I fit that in? You are never turning your food brain off, ever. You're constantly on it when you're hungry. Whereas when you have meal 1, meal 2, meal 3, and meal 4, of course, we can still have a bit of variety within those and be flexible. But, okay, meal 1's at 9, food brain's turned off till 12. Meal 2's at 12, food brain is turned off till 4. Meal 3's at 4, food brain's turned off then till 8, where we've got that last meal, right? So within those gaps, you know, right, I've only got 3 hours here until I'm eating again. Boom, let's just lock in. Might have a nice little cheeky monster in that time. Might have a coffee in the morning. So you could have meal 1, food brain off. You know the coffee's there. Meal 2, we've got a nice little monster if we were treating ourselves there. Then we got meal 3, and then we know we only need to wait till that last meal. So for me, I like it, right, meal 1, okay, I'm not eating until meal 2. Food brain's off. Don't care if I'm hungry, don't care what I'm craving. Meal 2's in, enjoy them, boom. So making those meals enjoyable, that's the biggest thing there. They're set, they're enjoyable, we like them, let's go. Turn that food brain off, because you can just drive yourself mad without that. So then within that, we're looking at training day food and non-training day food. Now, bringing the non-training day food down is a fantastic way to just increase that deficit when obviously expenditure's down because we're not training. When we're training, we might need a little bit more fuel coming into that. So again, what we do typically non-training day is just pull those carbohydrates down. We might have 25, 50, 75 grams less, 100, 200, 300 calories. It then gives us the opportunity to push further into a deficit on a non-training day without really even noticing that from an energy standpoint, and keep food nice and high when we're training. So that's one thing that we like to do a lot. And the reason we just stick to those numbers, we try and fit things in. We don't have these days real lower and allow ourselves to hit 3,000 calories and try and manage this. If we have this big blowout and we hit 3,000 calories, just get back to plan. Remember, it's not just about calories. That food is fuel for your sessions. So if you go, oh, I need to eat 1,200 calories today, I messed up. Training's gonna suffer that day, training's gonna suffer the next day, energy's gonna be down with those, that's not gonna help in terms of us holding muscle, and appetite's gonna be through the roof, we're gonna be way more likely to binge. So instead, like I said with changing the meals and saving the gap, just do what you can to hit that day. Fit it into that day, get straight back to plan then, and you're flying. So if you set up like that with your base and you gradually bring that down, the more you mess up, the longer you're gonna be in that fat loss phase. So realize that's not forever. You can push, you can drive, especially in those last phases, and then fat loss done. My last fat loss phase, 1,800 calories. I'm on 3,950 calories now. Set up like that, and you really cannot go too far wrong with that. Of course, as always, if you are interested in our help, the link to coaching is always in that description. Plenty more vids coming. I appreciate you watching. Any comments, just fire them down below. Make sure you subbed, and I will see you in the next one. Peace. Thank you very much for watching another video. Videos are coming every single Sunday and Wednesday, so if you want more, you need that content there, make sure you subscribe. Drop me a comment with anything that you want to see. The link to coaching is down below. The link to the Perform discount is down below. For more daily content, Luke Whitney Coach. I'll see you in the next one.